All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the first ever episode of the CollegeTracks Spotlight podcast. My name is Priscilla Diwa, and I'll be your host. And every single month, I'm going to be joined by a former CollegeTracks alumni, and we'll be discussing different topics ranging from their personal journey, the post-grad endeavors, and also their successes and lessons they've had along the way. And today I'm joined by our first guest, Nadja Amaguana. Hi, Nadja. How are you?
Hi, Priscilla. How are you? I'm doing well.
Good. Welcome to our first ever podcast. I should probably give you like a gift card or something for being the first person.
No worries. This is exciting for me too.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about yourself, like what your educational journey was, and then also your culture journey and where you are right now.
Yeah, sure. So I went to the University of Maryland, College Park. That's where I studied criminal justice, and that's what I got my degree in. However, currently I actually work in a private equity real estate firm, so business finance, and very different from what I first started out as. And so that kind of leads, like, my educational journey was definitely not like a vertical slope. It definitely took some turns and some twists, but it taught me, studying what I studied at first taught me a lot, but it also taught me about myself and what I didn't like. And so once I realized, this is not something that I wanted to pursue, it really pushed me to explore my other interests, and that was in business. So that's how I ended up where I am now.
Nice. That's awesome. So what did you first ended up doing before doing this, going to business? What was your interest before?
So what I was taking, I had criminal justice as my degree. My minor was global terrorism. And I had like an idea of potentially going to law school after my undergrad. And I wanted to work for a government agency. I wanted to do kind of like public service, but I did an internship in my minor of global terrorism, and it was very research intensive. And it just did not suit my personality by any means. So after realizing, like, okay, this would be kind of the trajectory for what I would be in terms of work post grad, it just didn't appeal to me any longer. So that's how I ended up moving to business.
Okay. So like speaking about like business in general, but specifically for what you're doing, what are some of the attributes that like basically like allowed you to go into, like, what did you like about that studio? It's like, okay, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah. So I knew that I was interested in real estate, and I wanted to, make it into like a career. So I thought of corporate real estate, and in this field, it's very client facing. So it's a lot of, people relationships, networking, that type of environment. And the role that I'm in currently, I'm an investor relations analyst. And so that's extremely client facing, and it's a very dynamic role. So I'm providing the analytical support for my entire team, as well as our investors, on like a very qualitative and quantitative scale. But the funner part that I would say that I enjoy the most would be the meetings that we get to be on a daily basis, the events I get to attend, and just the calls in general, like sitting with senior management and big investors. It's very interesting to be able to have like a seat at the table and to listen to the big conversations that are going on. And I love being able to learn in that aspect and be a part of it.
Okay. That sounds like really fun too. And it sounds like very dynamic, like not just like
Yes.
doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, my days are literally never the same. They're always changing. So it's nice to not just have to sit in front of a computer and do Excel spreadsheets, although sometimes that's, part of the job, but it's nice to be able to have that like changing environment.
Nice. So when you're going into, like, let's say like for someone who just graduated, because you graduated 2020, right?
Yes.
Okay. So someone who just freshly graduated from college and getting into the career, how important is it for them to like have a mentor, or like do you feel like it's good for you just to have like work experience and then also have a mentor to guide you through?
Yeah, I actually, I think having a mentor is the best thing you can do. I have a mentor, and I remember when I told my CollegeTracks coach that I wanted to switch my major. And so she kind of helped me get my foot in the door for starting in real estate. I had like an internship working for a woman who had her own business in property management. And so I worked with her as an intern, and then it became a full-time role during my senior year of college. And she now serves as like my mentor, and I talk to her on probably like maybe every other month. I'll have a call with her. But I mean, having someone who's done what you want to do is, I think, so important, because it helps you kind of alleviate the issues or problems that arise. And anytime I feel uncertain or I have a question, I know she's only there to help me and never judge me. So, and she's been through it before. So I think if anything, it helps your learning curve, and having someone there to guide you, like it will exponentially make it faster in terms of like learning.
Okay. That sounds really good. So it's like having like a guide, not only in your career, but also like you mentioned when you're in college, you had a CollegeTracks coach as well. It's always good to have that. Like even for me too, I wish I had known about CollegeTrack when I was in high school, but I used something like similar, what's called like Future Links, and it also like assigned you like different coaches throughout your time. So for you to have had that, especially during while you're in college, what were some of the key factors that your CollegeTracks coach helped you with or helped you guide with?
I think CollegeTracks, like, they helped me the most with just solidifying like what my goals were. So like constantly always knowing like, okay, what are the actionable steps you're going to take? What are your goals for the semester, for the year, after graduation? And like having those in place, like they helped me the most, like keep myself on track. So I think like in that terms, like their guidance there was very imperative for me, and I think my growth and my success post-graduation.
Yeah, that's really awesome. That's really awesome. And now it's kind of like too, like when you've been helped, it's like you can also like give it back, right, and turn around. So like now you're like being in this position. It doesn't have to be like right now, but like have you also felt like later on during your life or career, you also want to mentor someone else like coming into the field?
Oh yeah, I definitely would love to do that. And I actually, at my firm, we're gonna have interns come in, and I'm serving as like an analyst mentor. So I would love, being able to give it back is definitely exciting. And it's also like a great teaching experience too, because you get to relearn kind of what you learned already. So it helps that way too. But as much as I love getting help from people, I want to help just as much. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So if someone was coming in specifically into your firm or in the same realm of work that you do, what characteristics do they need to have in order to be successful in that type of work?
I would say that for where I work, you definitely need to be personable. It's very, like I said, a people-oriented job. And so, having the skills to connect with different types of people is very important, because you're working collaboratively across the firm. All of the teams kind of like, we have our own silos, but we all work together to meet the same goals. So you need to be able to work with people, communicate very well, and overall just be like on kind of like entrepreneurial and like a leader, because everyone at my firm, at least, everyone's exceptional at what they do. There's not just like one star person. Everyone is a star. So you just have to never be afraid, and just always put yourself out there and not shy away.
I like that. This can apply to like honestly anywhere you are in life, but it's like the more you taste risk, the more like success you have. Especially that's what I found too. Like some people, like there's a term that I use, is called like do it dirty. Like it's like just do it at any time, right? Because so many people, it's like you want to wait till like everything's like really perfect, so you have like all the credentials. But it's honestly like that's going to hinder you more often than you think. And I'm speaking from personal experience too. So it's like that's what I just thought, when just like just do it dirty, just do it where you are. You learn along the way. That's how you really do it.
That's exactly how I look at it.
Yeah, for sure. So being not in a career woman, do you find like the work-life balance is like easy, or like you still like manageable? So it's trying to find a way to do that.
Yes, work-life balance, it's like such a big topic right now for so many people. I would, especially I guess in my industry, like it's known to be kind of like all work and no like life balance, but I know how important it is. And the way I define it is, I define it as like 80-20. And what I mean by that is like 80% of everything, 80% of me is going to my work, because it's very important to me. But I can't be my full 100% if I don't have anything allocated for myself. So that 20% needs to hold up the 80%. So if I don't do things that are fully for me, or if I don't make time for the things that I find important, well, then that 100% will just topple over, because there's nothing to support it. So I always look at it like, as long as I have my 20%, I can fully sustain the 80% because that's a long-term game. Like if you're trying to go 100% into like your work, it's just not going to be healthy. You
Yeah.
can't neglect yourself. So I would just say that it's important to always have those times where you just do things fully for yourself with no intrinsic like motivation other than just being happy. And
Yeah.
for me, it's like working out or being active, playing sport of some sort. I always have time for those type of things.
Yeah.
And I think I balance it pretty well, but it's
Yeah.
still, it's always like a struggle, but you have to prioritize yourself for sure.
Okay, that's really awesome. So wait, what sports do you play? Like, do you like to do?
So I actually just joined 2 co-ed soccer teams. So I played
Mhm.
soccer like throughout my whole life, but then, after that I quit and I'm getting back into it. So I'm playing with a lot of my friends from high school and it's
Nice.
it's so much fun. I love it.
That's awesome, especially with the weather now being like
I
nicer too. It's
know.
like you have more
It's
time
so
to be
nice.
outdoors.
Mhm.
Well, I'm thinking like I'm going to start like in terms of like work-life balance, right? It's like so many people have different ways of accumulating it. But the 80/20 rule is actually interesting because I've heard it in other aspects, but more specific like nutrition, right?
Yeah,
So it's like you eat well
right.
like 80% of the time and 20% it's like you eat junk
You
food.
need some leeway. Yeah.
Exactly. And it can also be like applied to like your work-life balance. Like you said, it's like 80% you put into like your career, if that's what you love to do, right?
Mhm.
But then also like make sure to include your me time, and so to
Mhm.
speak, right?
Exactly.
So as you go about your life, like have you ever thought or like some different ways that you think to myself, like how can I inspire other people? That can be like in the workplace, that can be in the way you live or things that you do outside of work.
Yes, I would say that, I would love to inspire people, obviously on a granular scale one day.
Yeah.
I'm still very young. But if I had to inspire someone just from like my story that I've, from what I've done right now, I would say that just to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Mhm.
That was something that I did well in college. And that's how it got me to where I am today because, like I said, I don't have a degree in finance and I'm working in like a private equity firm, which is
Yeah.
pretty cool. But it all came from me just pushing myself and putting myself in places where I didn't feel like I belonged or I didn't feel like I was the best.
Yeah.
And those are what taught me the most because they developed me the most. So just, when you're afraid of something, if you're never going to push yourself to go to those
Mhm.
uncertain places, then you'll just be complacent, and being complacent is kind of like stagnant. And I would say that even if you're failing at something, if you move backwards and you fail forwards, you'll, take 4 steps forward again. Cause if you
For
learn
sure.
from it, you have the opportunity to exponentially push yourself. So
Mhm.
I would say that if at least if you're failing, like you're making mistakes is totally okay. And I've made plenty of mistakes,
Mhm.
but had I not learned from them, like I wouldn't be here today. So I would say like you need to put yourself in those positions, even if they feel they're a little bit scary. You have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think that term, like, have you heard when people say like there's never like you never lose, right? Your L stands for lessons.
Mhm.
That couldn't be honestly like more than truth because like think about like someone who's like never failed before, you
Yeah.
might think like, oh wow, like they're really good, like they're like quote unquote perfect. But then it's like if you look at someone who's failed 1,000 times, that person is actually more stronger than the person
Mhm.
who's never failed because they have learned how to bounce back.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key thing
Resiliency.
to
Mhm.
exactly learn resiliency. And even though like well, like in the meantime, like when you fail, like you've lost at something, but that's teaching you something for you to even do more better, right? Because
Mhm.
like if everything goes like perfect, what exactly are you learning?
Exactly. And
Um,
that's what I was thinking. It's like if you always are doing something that you do well at, I mean, you'll be the best at it. That's totally fine, but you're not really developing the other qualities about yourself that maybe you're not so good at. And it's to be vulnerable and accept that like, okay, what do I lack or what are my flaws? It's
mhm.
scary, but it's definitely important if you want to be a well-rounded person and if you want to grow as an
Yeah,
individual, you do need to face those things that like you're not the best at. So I totally
yeah,
agree.
absolutely. So speaking of the same topic of inspiration, has been anyone in your life who has inspired you?
Wow, that's a big question. Definitely, I would say that this sounds cliche, but it's definitely my mother.
Yeah.
She's totally inspired me. She came here when she was 18 years old,
Mhm.
from Poland,
Yeah.
and the life that she's created with my dad is beautiful. And
Yeah.
she came here with, far less than I was ever given.
Yeah.
So, she helped my dad get out of student debt and bought their first
Mhm.
house together, and she put the down payment for
Wow.
the small job that she had when she first came here. I mean, she's done some pretty amazing things and she's, doing so great for herself now that she's definitely my inspiration to know that there's really nothing that I can't like achieve, because I've been given way more than she has, and she's done a lot.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's really touching. And it's great too, is like your mom is like someone who's always like active in your life, so it's like
Yes.
you have that constant reminder of what's possible. That's really
Exactly.
nice. So what is the best advice that you've received? And then also what's the best advice that you would give someone else?
So the best advice that I receive, it's very time sensitive to right now. And I got it recently, probably like a couple weeks ago. It resonated with me. And it was that you're the only person standing in your own way.
Mm.
Because I've been kind of dealing with imposter syndrome. So, working at a big firm it's intimidating because I'm always around very seasoned, tenured individuals.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, like I don't have a place here. Like I'm so young, I'm inexperienced. And if I have to speak, and like I get nervous and whatnot, but like truly no one is thinking, like nobody wants you to fail. Truly everyone is thinking about themselves, or they're supportive.
Yeah.
Nobody wants that for you. So once I could get that out of my head, I was like, okay, like it's truly me. Like all of the nerves, the anxiety that I get from feeling this type of way, from feeling like an imposter at my firm, it's only because it's in my head. So once I can get out of my own way, then I can put myself go in full force and just not be afraid. And I think like hearing that, like I've always known that, but hearing someone tell me that, I was like, wow, like that's so true. It's really all me that's in my way. So that's, I think, the best advice I've ever gotten thus far.
Nice. And then what's the best advice that you would give someone else?
And so the best advice I would give someone else would be, it pretty much couples with what I just talked about. And it's kind of like to have control over your mind and the way you perceive things, because, all of the externalities that we all face are very subjective to us. And some people, face more obstacles more severe than others, and you can't control them. But the things you can control are the way you let them affect you.
Yeah.
So I would just say, for me, in my experience, I'm a very optimistic person. So I look at things, even if it's a failure or something makes me feel bad, or that I didn't do well, I look at them as a means to progress and to grow. Even like I said, if it makes me feel like I'm not doing something right. But if you have that lens, that perspective, a filter to your life that is showing positive things, like it will manifest.
Yeah.
So I think, if anything, control your thoughts, and because those thoughts that consume your mind, like they subliminally and unconsciously like dictate the way that you define your life. So I just am always noting to myself, be positive, look at things from the brighter side, because that truly will bring you, better things, I think.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Specifically also like when you say like have control over your mind, like your mind is definitely, like for me, I believe like 100% the most powerful thing like ever. And I listen a lot to Bob Proctor, and he said that honestly, like if we really knew like how great our mind is, because if you think about it, like just with our thought alone, right? Not just our words, like but our thought alone is like it can create our realities, right? So if you look at all of these things around you, for example, like this laptop I'm looking at, or maybe like my phone or a house, it's like that all first came from someone's mind, right? So if you think about it, it's like, okay, like if I keep thinking positively, then what's going to manifest? Positive results, right? But then also it's like if I keep thinking negatively, you're going to see it, right? And like in terms of like also the advice that you say you would give, I think is timely too, and really powerful, because a lot of people, like when you think about, for example, like if someone's like, oh my gosh, like I don't have any confidence, or I'm not bold enough, I'm not smart enough. But it's like we have, as human beings, we have everything that we need. The only thing is like we have to become aware of it, right? So we can't be like, oh my gosh, I wish I had more confidence. Like everything's already inside of you, but once you become aware of it, then everything changes. It's like now you think it's like you're not thinking from a lacking mindset. It's like you're already in abundance of everything. So that really is a powerful thing that you can give someone, is like to be aware of their mind and the power of it too.
Yeah, mindset it's a huge determinant, I think, factor for just the way that your life unfolds, because you replicate whatever it is that you're thinking. So if you can harness that and leverage it to your best ability, I mean, you can't control anything beyond like what you can, and that one thing that you can control is inside. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. So one thing that I do every morning and every night is like I have like a gratitude journal.
Mhm.
Just so like I think it just brings you back to like the center and just being like you have everything you have and what you want will come.
Yeah.
So for you right now in this time and season in your life, like what are you most grateful for?
What I'm most grateful for is easy. It's my family. I'm very close with my family. They have totally like, helped me get to where I am today, and I credit them for everything that I have
Yeah,
right now. So without them, without the moral compass they've instilled in me, without the values that they taught me, I don't think I would be the person I am today. So I'm super grateful for my parents and my brothers.
I love that. I love that. Do you tell them that?
Honestly, I should probably tell them that more. I need to do that
Like,
more.
yeah. I was thinking that too. Like when you spoke very highly of a mom, I'm like, oh my God, well, it is like Women's International Month. That could be like
It
something
is,
to
you're
celebrate,
right.
right? We
I
are to
know.
get her flowers every single time.
I have to say it more often.
Me too, absolutely. Well, that comes to the end of our podcast. And Nadia, I just want to say thank you so much for your time and also like for us to be able to hear everything you had to say. You are very inspiring. And I'm so glad that like you've been able to share your experiences with us. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. This was honestly great. I love being able to talk about, how college tracks and college success has helped me get to where I am today. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely.